Next on our list is People. Under People, you can add and edit users and drivers. You can add and edit clearances, adjust the standard work days and times, and you can enter your normal holidays into the system so that Geotab will always know when your drivers should or should not be working. Let's first look at users and drivers. These are the users that are currently in our system and some basic information about them. If we need to edit a driver, we simply click on the driver and we can make the edits that we need and save our changes. To add a user or a driver, simply click the Add button, enter the information required, and click the Save button at the top of the page. The UI settings and map settings will default to what you have set up in your system settings. If a user is a driver, you'll need to click Yes that this user is a driver, and again complete the rest of the form. If you're using driver identification, you'll need to assign the driver's ID key. You'll enter the serial number here, and you can also enter the driver's license number and the issuing state or province. If you're using the Geotab Drive app for ELD, you must enter the driver's license information and the issuing state or province so that that information can be pulled to the driver's logs. ELD drivers should be set to the time zone of their home terminal rather than the time zone of the administrator. Under UI settings, users have access to update some of these options unless you have assigned them to a clearance level that does not allow them to change their user options. If you have a driver that is in another time zone or a user that prefers to be in metric rather than US imperial, you or they, assuming that they have that clearance, can make those changes as well. Each user also has control over their date and time formats if they have the permissions to make those changes. Next is map settings. The default map preference is set here. In some cases, you'll only have one choice, but in some databases, optional maps are available. You do have the ability to add your own GIS map layers if that's something that's of interest. On the Feature Preview tab, you can choose to display upcoming features that you may want to try out, and Geotab encourages feedback from users who choose to turn on Feature Preview. Under System Communications, you shouldn't need to make any changes here, but in some situations you might. It's always best to check with support or your account manager before making any changes here. Finally, if the user is a support contact for your team, you can turn on these buttons as well. When you're done creating your contact, you'll click Save at the top of the page, and that contact will then be added to the system on your main users page. There are times when you'll need to remove a user. Just select that user, click Remove, and it's generally a good idea to archive a user when you remove them, same as you would archive a vehicle, so that you don't lose any history that's associated with that user. You also have the ability to filter to a specific group of users. If you only want to see the archived users, you can make that selection and pull just that list. Now I'm back to my active users. We can sort the user list by name alphabetically A to Z or Z to A. And we can also pull a report that lists all of our users with their details. We have the ability to change the columns that display in the user interface. We can add or remove columns from this view. We can even drag and drop to change the order of the columns. If we need to edit multiple users, there's a batch edit feature. Let's say I wanted to change the data access level for 3 users. First, I click Select Individual. I make my selections. I'll click Edit Selected Users. And on this screen, I can make the changes that I want to their data access level. I'll click Modify. Because the users were not in the group that I granted them access to, the system is warning me that I need to add the users to the group as well. Once those changes are made, I'll click Save at the top of the page, accept the changes, and now the users are added to that group.